Alright guys, welcome back to this Minecraft series. This is part 14 or maybe 13, I'm not so sure like always. But in this video we're going to be taking a look at smooth player movement and advanced player movement kind of. And we're also going to be fixing some minor glitches that you guys actually found, which is pretty good. I also found them, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, so I've actually coded this already, so I've made the final product. You can see there's like a deceleration over here, so it's pretty cool. So I don't just stop like that. I like decelerate and then stop. So I've already coded fixing the glitches and this advanced player movement. So the reason why I'm making this video is so you guys can learn how to do it. You can see this is the final code of the final output, which I just showed you, and I've basically kept a track of what things I've changed and added. Okay, so let's get going and start this. Okay, so you can see the first thing, I basically changed the jumping counter acceleration from negative 0.9 to negative 1. Okay, so what does this mean? This basically means the counter acceleration. That means if we go over, so this is your program right now, how it should be looking like. If you go to the place where you basically jump, that was over here, yeah, in a line 191, you can see that's the counter acceleration. Okay, negative 0.9, yeah. I changed it to negative 1. Okay, and this basically means there's a slight harder push, so you go higher. Okay, so it doesn't change the gravity itself, it just means you're stronger basically and you can jump higher. Okay, so now that's that. Okay, and I basically changed it to negative 1. The next thing, I added an intersect function. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to show you guys. First I'll just copy and paste it, and then I'll explain what everything is. Okay, now this intersect function is really useful. It's basically it basically allows us to check when two objects are being intersected. Okay, so function intersect, okay, that's the name of the function. It takes in, if I'm correct, 10 parameters, okay? Because you have two objects, okay? Not object as in like programming object as in like a football or something, okay? So you have an X position of that object, you have Y, you have Z, and then you have the width of it, you have the height of it, you have the depth of it because it's 3D, so it also has a depth. And now these are the parameters of the second object. This exact same thing, just I added a 2 there to show it's a second object. And then what it did is basically these X positions, they're at the center of the object. Okay, so for example, if I place a cube over here, the X position is actually in the very center of the cube. So it's not like at the corner or anything. The X, Y, Z positions are all at the center of the cube. Okay, so basically I created two objects. Var A is the first object. Okay, so it's like the first block kind of, or like the first thing. I calculated the min X, min Z, max Z, and min Y and max Z. Max Y. And the same thing for B. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's quite simple maths. You basically get the X position, you minus it by the width divided by 2 to find the max. You do the same thing just with a plus and so on. And the reason why I did that is so I can calculate if the two objects intersect. Okay, and basically I used this kind of condition over here. If that is true, then they intersect. If it's false, then they don't. Okay, and this function basically returns if they intersect or not, true or false. Okay, so that's really useful. We may even use that later in this project. The next thing is I added a player object and changed the moving system and the collision detection. Now what does this mean? So as you can see over here, that's the player object. Okay, again, I'll just copy this and paste it right above this guy over here. Okay, so you have this intersect function that we just wrote, and then this player object that we just put. Okay, and just because I did it like that, I'll just copy these variables over here, and I'll basically just paste them above this. Okay, and that's because this player object, it uses this moving speed, so this has to be declared like before. So what is this player object? So basically this player object is an object of the player. Okay, it keeps track of the player itself. So it's like a box with all the information of the player. So it has its width, it has its height, and its depth. And actually, I got these from Minecraft itself. Maybe not the depth and the width, or maybe actually, but the height definitely. Okay, so the height is actually like Steve in Minecraft. He's 80% of 2 blocks. Okay, which is in our case 8 units. Okay, because 2 blocks is 10 units, so 80% of 10 is 8. So yeah, and then the x position of this is always equal to the camera's x position. The y is equal to the camera's y position, which that's actually not true. We're going to change that later. Because notice, like if, let's say these 2 blocks is the player, okay? These 2 blocks. And like imagine these 2 blocks is just one block, like one cuboid. The x, y, z coordinates would be at the center over there, right? So basically what I want to say is that the camera's position is at the top over here. So the player's position is over here. The camera's position is at the top of the player. Okay? Because the camera is, your eyes are at the top, not at the middle. So yeah, so right after that, yeah, so this is going to change over here. You can see that over there. But yeah, and then I have this forward function, which basically you put a speed in, and it will actually move the player by that speed. And it will also update the position. The reason why I do that is because you can see this update position is because we're actually moving controls to move forward is moving the camera itself, but not the player. So we have to make the XYZ positions equal to the camera again. And notice how over here, this dot y is equal to camera's y position minus this dot h divided by 2, okay? So let's just see what that means. So this dot y, which is over there, okay? So the player's y position is always in the middle over there, is equal to the camera's y position minus the height of the player divided by 2. So that's over there, okay? So the camera's y position minus the height of the player divided by 2. So it's over there in the middle, okay? So yeah, and then I have the same thing for backward, right, and left. And yeah, so that was a player object, okay? And now we can use this, and it's like a way more convenient and better way to, make our program more efficient and make more sense than this. I don't really know, like, it makes sense to me, but like probably doesn't make sense to someone who's reading this code, okay? So code always has to be neat, okay? So we're going to be changing that and this, okay? So all of the collision detection and the moving is going to change now, okay? 3, 2, 1, boom. Oh, you know what? I'll reset that, but let me just explain what I mean, okay? So the next thing is basically, if we take a look at, yeah, so we added the player object. Now we have to change the moving system and the collision detection. So where is that? And notice this is in the final program, which I'll be uploading to the GitHub repository. So if I go over here, you can see it looks way different to this, okay? You can see these guys, they look different, okay? And I also have a player to update position over here just to like update it. So let me just copy that and paste it. So every time the program is run, so every time the update function is called, we update the player's position, okay? And I explained what the update position does. So yeah, I'll just copy this and then I'll explain what it does, okay? So I'll just copy up to here. So this has moving front, moving back, moving right, and moving left, okay? So copy that. Yeah, so now that I've copied that, I go to the, the program that you are in basically. And from here, I basically go over here, delete that. So now we basically cannot move, okay? And then I paste it. I paste the new code that I wrote by myself. So basically it's the same thing. Basically I wrote if the keys.includes controls.options.forward, okay? So the control options, remember I explained that in the last video, I think. Basically if we're clicking W or whatever makes you go forward, we want to move the player forward, okay? And I'll explain what this means after, okay? Because I also added sprinting, okay? So that's really cool. So for back is equal to 1 times moving speed, okay? Now what does that mean? So I have this for_back variable. So let me just go to the real one. And where's the for_back variable? Over here. So I'll just copy these variables that I made. So paste it over there, okay, above the update function. I have a deceleration, which is basically the deceleration, like I explained. This guy, he decelerates, you can see. It's not just a constant, like sudden stop. He actually decelerates. So that's good. So that's the deceleration variable. The higher it is, the faster you decelerate. The for_back, 1 means forward, -1 means backward. Same with right-left, 1 means right, and -1 means left. The var sprint speed inc, I'll explain after, so when I explain the sprinting mechanism. Yeah, you know what, I'll actually explain the sprinting mechanism. So if I go over, right over here. So there's a real one again. If you go to line around 204, basically when you made the key down added event listener. So basically I did right above the keys.push. So if I go to the current one, where did that go? Keys.push over here. So right above this, I basically added an if statement. Okay, this one over here. So I'll just copy that, paste it. Okay, and I'll explain that just in a second. I'll also copy these variables and paste these above that. Okay, so that's how it looks like over here. So basically, I did if the key is W, and this code over here basically checks if so I have this start variable over here, and that's 0. Okay, start is 0. Then I have var elapsed is equal to new date.getTime. So this gets the current time. And then it checks if the time minus the start time is less than 300 milliseconds, so less than 0.3 seconds, then sprint is true. So basically, if you double click W faster than or equal to 300 milliseconds, so if you go like boom, boom, then it will sprint. But if you go like boom and then boom, then it will not sprint. Okay, so you have to click it faster than 300 milliseconds or equal to 300 milliseconds. So if that happens, then you are sprinting. So I made a sprint variable. I changed that to true. And I made start equal to elapsed. Okay? So like I basically updated start basically. Okay? But the most important thing is var sprint is false. Okay? And then I make sprint true when you're double clicking W. So guys, now that we've done that, I actually have to go to this key up event. Okay? And I have to copy this bit of code. Okay? And let me just go to the same one. So that was the key down event. There's a key up right over here. Okay. So if you go to your key up event, right below the keys equals to the new array. I basically did if the keys does not include W. Okay. So basically if you're not clicking W, sprint is false, obviously. Okay. So that's basically what this does. Quite simple. Okay. So the next thing. So now we're still in this thing over here. We're still in this kind of update over here. I've explained the player object, and now I'm explaining that. Okay. So the moving system. Let's go over there. So now I've explained how I sprint, how that sprinting mechanism works. So now let's explain this. So basically, you always want to move the player by the moving speed. Okay. And the moving speed is it starts to be 0.7. Okay, and basically I did times sprint. Basically, there's a conditional statement in JavaScript. It basically checks if sprint is true, then do this. Okay, then pick this. Okay, so I'm timesing by something, by some number. Okay, so what is that number that I'm timesing by? I'm basically doing if sprint is true, times it by that, but if it's false, times it by 1. Okay. And basically, sprint speed inc is that over there. It's 30% faster than the walking speed, okay, 1.3, because I'm timesing by 1.3, so it's times 130%. It's like, bigger by 130%. But if sprint is false, then that means you're not sprinting, and that's why you just times it by 1, okay? Because timesing a number by 1 just gets you the same number. Like 5 times 1 is just 5. And the for_back is equal to 1 times the moving speed, okay? And the 1, like, it's just there to show that, you know, it's like going in the forward direction, because remember 1 is forward, okay? So basically if 4 back is positive, it's going forward. If 4 back is negative, it's going backwards. Same with right and left. Right, left over here. If right, left is positive, it's going right. If it's negative, it's going left. The player is going left, okay? So I did 4 back is positive over here. It's 1 times the moving speed. And then there's a collision part. I went through all the chunks, and I basically made an intersection variable over here. I did var c is equal to the block that we're iterating through, and that's over here. I basically simplified it so I don't always have to write chunks ij and so on. I just did var b equals chunks ij, so I can just do b.x and so on. Okay, so yeah, so there's an intersect function calling thing over here, and that basically returns true or false if the player and the block are colliding or not. So if they're colliding, okay, and so they're colliding and this thing over here, okay, what does this do? This basically checks, let's see, if the blocks minus y minus 2.5, the reason why it's 2.5 is because remember I said the y position is at the center of the block, minus 2.5 is at the side of the block, okay, because the block is 5 units. Yeah, so this is kind of hard to explain. I don't think I'll go over that, but it basically ensures that you're hitting the side of a block, okay? So if you're colliding with the block and you're hitting the side of it, then you want to move the player backwards, okay, by the same amount, okay? So for example, if I go into it, like the reason why it's not working now is because, you know, this is not the updated one, like this is not the code that I've written, so we're gonna fix this obviously later. So in this video, okay, So yeah, so if I collide into a block, I shouldn't continuously be going, right? I have to, like, the block has to, like, give a reaction force, okay? So I have to go backwards, okay? And that's basically what this does over here, okay? And then 4 back is also equal 0. That basically means I'm not moving, okay? Okay, so 4 back is 1 times moving speed. That basically shows that. So basically, if 4 back is 0, or if 4 back is 0, that means that you're not moving forward or backward. If right left is 0, that means you're not moving right or left. Okay, so 4 back is 0 and right left is 0. And then if sprint is false, yeah, and then you basically do sprint is false, because if you're like sprinting, let me just go to the real, like the code that I wrote. So if I'm sprinting and I collide onto a block, I'm no longer sprinting, and then I have to sprint again. Okay, so notice how over here I'm moving, and then over here I'm sprinting. You see how it's a bit faster? Okay, so yeah, so you basically want to switch off sprint. So that's basically the algorithm for that. I basically use the same algorithm for backwards, right, and left. Okay, so that was that. We covered that. The next thing is okay. So the next thing is collision detection, which we also went through. Yeah, then this. No, actually I didn't go through this. So let me just go through it now. So if I go to this part of the code, which is over here, deceleration part, okay? So it looks long, but it's not, okay? It's really, really simple. So if I go over here, so this is the forward, backward, right, and left moving code. And then if I go right below it and paste this, okay? Right below it, paste that, there's a deceleration part, okay? So basically, if the player is not moving, like if the player can move, but if you're not intentionally moving the player, so like if you're not clicking any keys, like W, A or S or D, okay? You want to do 4 back divided equals deceleration. So you want to decrease 4 back, or like you want to make it smaller, basically, okay? So you will basically want to decelerate 4 back. And it's the same with right left, okay? You basically want to decelerate the player, okay? But then the question is, what if you collide onto a block? So basically, the next step is to check for collisions, okay? So now you're decelerating the player. now you basically want to check, go through all the blocks, okay, over here. Then, for simplicity, make the chunk, the block that you're going through, equal to b, a variable, okay? Then you have the c variable that checks for intersection of the player and the block, if that intersection is true, and again, if the block is at the side of the player, that's what this condition does. Then what you want to do is var break is true, and this basically solves the issue that you see on the screen, okay? Basically, the reason why you go through is because you're basically over here, you're dividing it by negative deceleration, but then because you're not breaking it anymore, you're dividing it by negative deceleration again, and that becomes positive, so you're basically going through, okay? So you're continuously going, so you have to break it to make it negative, okay? So like make it in the opposite direction. So yeah, hopefully that was clear. So you basically want to do that, and if break is true over here, then you break the outside loop. So you break this inside loop over here. If break is true, then you also break the outside loop, okay? Then for back, so if there is a collision, then you want to decelerate it, but in the other direction. So let's say I'm decelerating in this direction now, as you can see, okay? If I collide onto a thing, you notice how it's giving like a reaction force based on how quick I was going, okay? So if I like decelerate like that, it's a slight one. If I decelerate at the last moment, you can see it pushed me a bit harder, and all of them were in the opposite direction of the direction I came in, okay? So that was that. And then sprint is also false. Once again, if you're colliding into a block, sprint is false. So and then over here, as you decelerate, so this is outside of the for loops. As you decelerate, you basically want to decelerate by the for back, because you're doing for back. So you're decelerating the for back, and then you basically want to put that for back into right and left, okay? So you actually want to make the player move. So this basically is like how much you want the player to move by, and this is you're putting that quantity into this, okay? And then times, again, the conditional statement. If sprint is true, then you times the deceleration by sprint speed. So like, for example, if I'm sprinting, the deceleration will be like, there's also a deceleration effect for that. But if I go like this, there's a different deceleration, okay? So that's that. Again, the times 1 if sprint is false. So that was that. I don't know if I changed the y thing. Let's see. Yeah, so so we basically just covered all of that now, and that. Yeah, so the next thing is remove the glitch of placing a block inside you, okay? Now this line is inaccurate because, I added code afterwards, so let's just go ahead and find it ourselves. It's quite easy, the algorithm on how to do this. You can see if the e.key is control options.place block, okay? I basically check if, so I do all of this, and then I check for intersection, okay? So I basically wrap all of that around an if statement, okay? Basically, I check if the player is not colliding with the block that you just calculated. So like, if I go like this, you can see I'm not placing any block over here, okay? But now I can, okay? So it basically checks if the block that you're about to place, if the player is not colliding with it, okay? So now I can place it, but now I cannot, okay? So that was fixing that glitch. I guess, I guess from now on, I'll just copy this now. Which line was that? Line 269. So 269 is over here, somewhere here, but I have to wrap all of... Oh, this is getting a bit confusing. I think it starts from here. I basically do that, and then I wrap it around an if statement like this. So just like that. Okay, and then I also have to close it over here. So so that was that. The next glitch is so that was that, and then change the bottom collision detection. Okay, so I did change that. So if I go over to the update function again. So below the deceleration part, if I go to not following through a block, okay, I guess I'll just copy that. Okay, I'll copy this and I'll paste it in the same corresponding place, which is over here. Okay, so over here, that was the deceleration part. Then you have this bit of code over here, and then I'll just replace this code for that. Okay, so not following through a block or above a block. Okay, or above. Okay, because sometimes when you jump, then you can actually go above a block. Okay, so that's kind of weird. Again, I'm looping through all the variables, the chunks, the blocks, okay? And then I make it simple. I check for an intersection. I check if the intersection occurs and if the player is above the block. Okay, that's what this condition over here does. Then I want to do the camera's position should be above the block's surface plus the player.h, because remember that's where the camera is, okay? And then y speed is 0, okay? Can jump is true, so that's like what we did last time, kind of, or like before. Then I have another collision detection, because remember over here I did by plus 10, okay? I don't know if you noticed that, but that's what I did, okay? By plus 10. Over here, I just did b.y, okay? Yeah, you can see I also wrote that over there. So, yeah, this one basically checks if the player reaches, if basically the head of the player touches the bottom of a block that is above it, okay? Then you want to do y speed is 0.5, okay? Because the only way you reach the top is by jumping, okay? You basically want to change it, okay? So you basically want to, so right now y speed is a negative number. You basically want to make it a positive number, okay? So if you put 1, then the reaction force will be higher. So you will go down quicker once you hit the top, okay? So that's what that does, quite simple. The next thing is change bottom collision detection. Above collision detection added, we just looked at that. Fixed glitch of moving when escaped, okay? So basically, yeah, you can see in the screen, when I'm moving, like when I click escape and when I escape the game, I'm still moving, okay? So how do I fix that? How do I do that over here? Yeah, this was actually quite simple. All you had to do was check so if you go to this part of the code, when you do controls.add event listener, lock and unlock, I just added this bit of code over here. Basically, when it's unlocked, so when you click escape, then you want to make keys 0, like not 0 but empty, so there are no keys inside it, okay? So to do that, so yeah, right over here, okay? So quite simple. Then the next thing is fixed glitch of not breaking blocks, and that is basically, so you can see up on the screen, sometimes the y value, even after doing this, even after rounding it, is still a decimal. It's still like, for example, 4.999999. It's not exactly 5. So in this bit of the code, you have to add this over here, okay? So if I go to, for example, the key down place, okay? I basically have to do this. I'll just copy this bit of code over here and just paste it here, okay? Okay, and also the reason why I did B is because we had that B over there. I forgot to mention that, okay? That means I also have to add this for the clicking. So this was for the placing, key down. We also have to add this for the clicking, so when you break a block, okay? And that occurs over here, okay? So, and you can just remove this because there's no point of putting a B. So yeah. Yeah, basically, like when you found the block, when you checked if the y position was equal, it was not equal because it was 4.9999, okay? So that was the error, okay? So yeah, I guess that was it for this video. We fixed all the glitches. We made really cool player movement. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want this series to continue. And yeah, thanks for the support again, and see you guys in the next video.